So the operation that's been codenamed Rising Lion, which has clear biblical connotations, Israel's most direct military assault against Iran in a multi-domain assault. The Israelis have carried out airstrikes and also targeted assassinations of top Iranian military leaders. But the question is this: how did Israel manage to penetrate into Iran's security net and hit it with such precision? Now, the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad reportedly was preparing the ground way ahead of D-Day. It reportedly smuggled some explosive-laden drones and planted sabotage devices in vehicles, established mobile drone bases near Iran's capital, Tehran. Now, these explosive-laden drones and sabotage devices hit Iran's missile launchers, the Sinrad systems, the radar arrays and air defense installations, leaving Tehran's air defense systems completely exposed, clearing the way for the Israeli warplanes to enter into the Iranian airspace and to go ballistic on its nuclear enrichment infrastructure. The Israeli warplanes entered the Iranian airspace through Syria. Over 200 fighter aircraft conducted 5 waves of strikes, deploying precision ammunitions on over 100 different targets, including uranium enrichment sites, ballistic missile facilities, and the IRGC command centers. Now, Iran's major nuclear enrichment sites were in Israel's target list. One of the most significant targets was the Natanz nuclear site. Natanz is Iran's largest uranium enrichment site, which the IDF says has been working towards the development of nuclear weapons for many years. Now, Iran has said that most of the damage at Natanz underground uranium enrichment plant is only a superficial one, which was only at the surface. The Israelis carried out the assassination of Iran's top military commanders, which included Iran's Armed Forces Chief of Staff, Mohammad Bagheri, the country's Revolutionary Guards leader, Hossein Salami, the head of Revolutionary Guards missile program, General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, and senior Revolutionary Guards commander, Ghulam Ali Rashid. In addition to this, Israel has targeted several key scientists involved in Iran's nuclear enrichment program as well. And at least about 6 prominent nuclear scientists have reportedly been killed as a part of this attack by the Israelis. Now, Feridun Abbasi Divani, the former chief of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, had played a pivotal role in steering the country's nuclear development for over 20 years. Mohammad Mehdi Tehranchi significantly had contributed to nuclear research. He had overseen scientific education programs tied closely to Iran's strategic technology. Ahmed Raza Zolfaghari had provided some key support to uranium processing operations, considered an essential member of the technical backbone maintaining Iran's fuel enrichment program. Abdul Hamid Minashar, noted for managing critical enrichment logistics. Amir Hossein Fekhi, specialized in the calibration and testing of advanced centrifuges, and Mutaliza Badeh, who was engaged in lab-based research and quality assurance within the enrichment cycle, and all of them have been killed as part of these Israeli attacks. Now, things are very tense in Iran at this moment, and Yusuf Jalali, a journalist based out of Tehran, gives a sense of what's in fact unfolding during and in the aftermath of these Israeli attacks that have been targeted at Iran's nuclear facilities and also in the decapitation strikes that Israel has carried out on the Iranian military leadership. Listen.
Regarding those negotiations, of course, the 6th round was planned and was scheduled for this coming Sunday. But now we're hearing unconfirmed reports from different sources affiliated with the Islamic Republic, saying and suggesting that those talks are now off the table given the situation and the circumstances happening right now. And Iran says that it will not, at least for now, pursue the path of diplomacy with the United States. It has in the past also warned the United States and Israel that any attack against the country's military or nuclear facilities will be regarded as an act of war, and it will blame it both on Israel and the United States. So that's why we see that we've been hearing warnings by different Iranian officials saying that the American bases in the region, including those located inside Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and even the United Arab Emirates, those are within Iran's reach of the Iranian missiles, and those are within the targets of any potential Iranian counterstrike against Israel. So this is despite the fact that the United States has tried to stay out of it, saying that it was not aware of what Israel did, but Iran regards the Americans to be part of this.
All right, now joining us in the broadcast, we've got Mr. Aaron David Miller, who's a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Mr. Miller, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, according to reports that are coming through, what we are able to pick up is that for the second straight night, the Israelis have been targeting the Iranian nuclear facilities. We still haven't seen any large-scale reprisal by the Iranians. In your assessment, how far do you think the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is likely to push this operation that he's calling the rising line in this confrontation with Iran?
I mean, I think the Israelis have a comprehensive set of objectives. It's not simply to eliminate a single enrichment plant. They're probably going after every conceivable Iranian facility that they know about. And there are many undeclared sites which they probably don't. They're also, by the way, suppressing Iranian air defenses, ballistic missiles, drones, UAV, and going after Iranian ballistic missile production because they're anticipating at some point an Iranian response. And there will be an Iranian response, just as there was in April and October. But when that response occurs, it could be days, it could be weeks before that response occurs, because the Iranians in October of last year, I think, took almost 3 weeks before they responded to an Israeli strike. So
interesting.
The Israelis have escalation dominance. They dominate the airspace, and I would expect several more days and phases of this operation.
All right. Now, Rafael Grossi, the chief of the IAEA, has said that it is under international law illegal to strike at nuclear facilities of another nation. He said this in the context of Ukraine. He's also said this in the context of Iran. In your assessment, the fact that Israel is carrying out these targeted strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, how does this sit in the ambit of international law?
Well, look, I've worked for half a dozen administrations, Republican and Democrats, and not just in the United States. International law is adhered to when, in fact, it's convenient and violated when it's not. In this case, the Israelis are operating under what they describe as the Begin Doctrine. You remember in 1981, then Prime Minister Menachem Begin went after the Iraqi Osiris reactor in Tuwaitha. And the Americans, by the way, during one of the campaigns in Iraq, also struck the Tuwaitha reactor. So I don't think that's the issue right here. We've watched over the last 18 months a violation of international norms by both Hamas and by Israel. And, and again, I might add here, the Iranians are not blameless here. The IAEA on Thursday, 35 countries, 19 of them voted to censure Iran for violation of its NPT and additional protocol agreements for undisclosed uranium, traces of uranium, which the IAEA believed might have been used in efforts to weaponize. So, I mean, I hate to use this expression, but it is what it is here. And
all right. My next question to you, Mr. Miller, is a bit cynical, but this is a question that I want to ask you because this is something that's being spoken about a lot. That the plan here is to try and draw the Americans into a direct war with Iran. This is what the Israelis are trying to do. And the Americans for many, many years now have been carrying out regime changes. They did this in Iraq. They did this in Libya. Later, they did this in Syria through their proxies. is this now an opportunity that the American deep state is sensing where they can try and do something similar in Iran as well?
No, I don't think the Israelis may want regime change, but this was not the stated objective of their operation, of their campaign. And I don't think, frankly, that they have any expectations that their military activities and operations will lead to a new regime in Iran. It's for the Americans. Look, I think the reality is this president, and you saw that reflected in the statement of the Secretary of State, this president may have acquiesced or enabled this Israeli strike, but he has no intention of involving himself. He will defend the Israelis. There was a national security meeting at 11 o'clock today. I'm sure they're coordinating defense. But I don't see an escalation of American offensive activities against Iran unless the Iranians make a calculation that since the U.S. enabled the Israelis, that American assets in the Gulf, Americans on Iraqi air bases, on bases in Iraq and in Syria, unless the Iranians strike American assets directly, I see very little chance, frankly, that the Trump administration is going to get drawn into this.
All right. We'll have to wait and watch as to how this plays out. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Miller, for joining us with that perspective.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.